There is a watch on someone's wrist right now that cost more than a car. Not a smartwatch. Not anything electronic. A small mechanical device that does one job: tell the time. A job your phone does for free, more accurately, without ever needing to be wound. And yet people pay $10,000, $50,000, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars for one. The industry that sells them will tell you that price buys centuries of craftsmanship, generations of expertise, and a level of precision nothing else on earth can match. And for a very long time, almost nobody questioned that story. But a factory in China can now build a mechanical watch with a real automatic movement, a genuine sapphire crystal, and finishing so clean that most people could never tell it apart from a timepiece costing 50 times more. Same ticking heart, same materials, a tiny fraction of the price. And that simple fact is quietly pulling apart one of the most profitable illusions the luxury world ever created. And here is the part almost nobody wants to say out loud. This was never really a story about engineering. It was a story about a story. For decades, the luxury watch industry did not just sell you a machine on your wrist. It sold you an idea that a certain name engraved on a certain dial made you a certain kind of person. That is what you were paying for. And the moment a factory could copy the machine almost perfectly, the only thing left holding up the price was the idea. Stick around, because the way this illusion was built and the way China is now taking it apart is one of the clearest examples of how manufacturing quietly rewrites the rules of an entire industry. And by the time we get to the end, you will look at every expensive watch a little differently. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what a mechanical watch actually is and why it became so expensive in the first place. A mechanical watch is a tiny machine powered entirely by a wound spring. As that spring slowly unwinds, it drives a series of gears through a carefully regulated escapement, which releases energy in precise, even beats to move the hands. There is no battery, no computer, just miniature engineering, sometimes made of hundreds of tiny parts, all fitted together by hand or by very precise machines. Some of these movements contain more than 300 individual components, each one small enough to sit on the tip of your finger, each one machined to tolerances thinner than a human hair. It is genuinely clever. It is genuinely beautiful. And a century ago, it was genuinely rare, because only a handful of places in the world, mostly in Switzerland, had the skill and the tools to make these movements reliably. That is where the prestige came from, and originally, it was earned. Swiss watchmakers spent generations perfecting these machines, passing techniques from master to apprentice, building a reputation that took 100 years to construct. When your watch had to be mechanical because nothing else existed, the country that made the best mechanical watches sat at the top of the world. But then something happened that should have ended the whole industry overnight. In the 1970s, cheap, accurate electronic quartz watches arrived, mostly from Japan. A quartz watch uses a tiny crystal that vibrates at a precise frequency when electricity passes through it, and that vibration keeps time far more accurately than any spring and gear system ever could. They kept better time than the finest Swiss mechanical watches, and they cost almost nothing to make. Overnight, the practical reason to own an expensive mechanical watch disappeared. A $5 quartz watch was more accurate than a $5,000 Swiss one. The effect on Switzerland was catastrophic. In the space of about a decade, the Swiss watch industry nearly collapsed. Employment in Swiss watchmaking fell by roughly 2/3. Hundreds of companies went out of business. Whole towns that had lived on watchmaking for generations faced ruin. People still call this period the quartz crisis, and for a while, it genuinely looked like the mechanical watch was finished, a beautiful antique with no future. By the end of this video, you will understand how the Swiss industry clawed its way back from that, why the survival strategy planted the seed of today's problem, and why China is now positioned to break the whole thing open. If you enjoy stories about how technology and manufacturing quietly reshape entire industries, not through hype, but through factories and supply chains, hit like and subscribe so you never miss one. So how did the Swiss survive quartz? They made a brilliant and very deliberate decision. If a machine could no longer justify the price on function, they would justify it on meaning. They stopped selling watches as tools and started selling them as symbols: luxury, heritage, status, craftsmanship, emotion. They leaned into the idea that a fine mechanical watch was not about telling time at all, but about owning a piece of art, a family heirloom, a marker of success you could wear on your wrist. The messaging was everywhere. A watch was no longer something you bought. It was something you inherited, something you passed down, something you earned. One famous campaign told buyers they never actually owned their watch. They merely looked after it for the next generation. It was one of the most successful pivots in business history. They took a product that had just been made technologically obsolete and repositioned it as something a mere gadget could never be. And it worked spectacularly. Over the following decades, the biggest names sold the dream, kept supply deliberately tight, raised prices year after year, and watched demand climb higher and higher. Waiting lists for the most desirable models stretched into years. Some watches became so sought after that they sold on the second-hand market for several times their retail price, and the brands did everything they could to keep that aura of scarcity alive. But look closely at what actually happened there, because it is the exact same move the diamond industry pulled. The value was detached from the object and attached to the story. And a value built on a story has a very specific weakness. It only holds as long as the story holds. The watch on your wrist was no longer priced by what it cost to make. It was priced by what you could be convinced to believe. A watch that might cost a few $100s in parts and labor could sell for $20,000 or $30,000, and the difference was almost entirely the story wrapped around it. And for a long time, there was no one around to challenge that belief, because nobody else could build the machine well enough to expose it. If a cheap watch obviously looked and felt cheap, the premium was safe. The gap in quality justified the gap in price, at least in the buyer's mind. Then China learned how to close that gap. Here is what actually changed, and why it matters so much. For years, cheap Chinese watches were exactly what you would expect. Cheap. Flimsy cases, unreliable movements, the kind of thing that fell apart in a year. Easy to dismiss. But quietly, over the last decade or two, Chinese watchmaking climbed the quality ladder the same way Chinese industry has climbed it in phones, in cars, in almost everything else. Chinese factories started producing their own mechanical movements, the actual beating heart of the watch, that were reliable, accurate, and increasingly refined. One Chinese manufacturer has grown into one of the largest movement makers in the world, producing millions of mechanical movements a year, some of which quietly end up inside watches sold under other names at far higher prices. They began using the same premium materials the luxury brands use: surgical grade, stainless steel, genuine sapphire crystal that resists scratches, solid construction that feels substantial on the wrist. And then they went further. Chinese workshops began producing complications that were once the ultimate flex of high-end watchmaking. The tourbillon, for example. A spinning cage that holds the escapement and slowly rotates to average out the effect of gravity on the movement. Historically, the tourbillon is one of the hardest and most expensive things a watchmaker can build, a feature that can push a Swiss watch past $100,000. For most of its history, only a tiny number of master watchmakers in the world could make one at all. Then Chinese manufacturers figured out how to build working tourbillons for a tiny fraction of that price. Not a fake. Not a printed picture of one. A real, functioning mechanical tourbillon, spinning away under the crystal, for the price of a decent used car instead of a house. Suddenly, the features that justified astronomical prices were rolling out of Chinese workshops at prices ordinary people could actually afford. Independent watchmakers and reviewers started noticing something uncomfortable. When you put certain Chinese watches next to luxury pieces costing many times more, the gap in actual quality, the movement, the finishing, the materials, had shrunk to almost nothing. Reviewers who had spent their whole lives handling fine watches would pick up a Chinese piece costing a few $100s and struggle to find the flaws that were supposed to justify paying 50 times more. In some cases, side by side, most people genuinely could not tell which was which. And once that becomes true, a very dangerous question starts forming in the mind of every buyer. If I cannot tell the difference, what exactly am I paying for? Now, if this were only about cheaper watches, it would already be a problem for the luxury brands. But there is a second blow landing at the same time, and it is coming from an unexpected direction: China's own wallet. For over a decade, Chinese consumers were the single biggest engine of luxury watch growth on the planet. As China's middle and upper classes grew, they bought Swiss watches by the millions, and Swiss brands became deeply dependent on Chinese buyers to fuel their endless price increases. China was not just a market, it was the market. But China's economy has slowed, and that appetite has cooled hard. Swiss watch exports to mainland China have fallen sharply, down more than a third over 2 years, and the industry itself has warned that this market is not expected to bounce back quickly. Factories in Switzerland have cut production. Some have cut jobs. Think about the trap that creates. Swiss luxury model depends on ever-rising prices and an image of scarcity. But its biggest customer is pulling back at the exact moment that Chinese factories are proving the underlying machine can be built for far less. Squeezed from above by a shrinking pool of buyers willing to pay the premium, and from below by watches that deliver most of the substance for a sliver of the price. That is a genuinely dangerous position for a business model built entirely on the idea that its product is worth paying many times more for. Now, it is important to be honest about what this does and does not mean, because the watch world is full of people who know this subject deeply, and they are right about some things. It does not mean Swiss watchmaking is dead, or that the very best high-end pieces are going away. At the very top, there is genuine artistry, hand finishing done by master craftsmen who spend days on a single component, polishing surfaces that most owners will never even see. There is a level of detail there that Chinese mass production has not fully matched. Rare, handmade hot horologery will likely always command a premium, the same way rare art or a hand-built sports car does. It also does not mean a Chinese watch and a top Swiss watch are truly identical in every respect. Look closely enough, under magnification, and differences in hand finishing, in the sharpness of the angles, in the consistency of the polishing, often still show. Quality control at the very top is still a real advantage, and there is a real human element that no factory can copy. The history of a brand that goes back centuries, the emotion of an heirloom passed down through a family, the meaning a person attaches to a specific watch bought on a specific day. For some buyers, that meaning is worth every dollar, and that is a completely valid choice. Nobody should feel foolish for loving a watch. But for the vast majority of watches sold, the ones bought largely to signal success, priced far above what the machine costs to build, the ground is shifting under the industry's feet. Because once the buyer knows that the same movement, the same sapphire, the same finish can be had for a fraction of the price, the story gets a lot harder to sell. So step back and look at the pattern, because you have seen it before on this channel. A Western industry builds a commanding lead on a product that is genuinely hard to make. Over time, the price detaches from the cost and floats upward on prestige and marketing. The industry gets comfortable, convinced its lead is permanent and its story unbreakable. And then China, quietly and over years, learns to build the same thing at scale, at a fraction of the cost, and the whole illusion is forced out into the open. Solar panels, batteries, electric cars, diamonds, and now, the mechanical machine on your wrist. Each time, the early reaction from the West is the same. Dismiss it as cheap, dismiss it as low quality, insist that the real thing is different. And each time, the gap closes anyway. The luxury watch was always two things stacked on top of each other, a piece of real engineering and a very expensive story wrapped around it. For 100 years, the story was safe, because no one else could build the engineering well enough to separate the two. That is no longer true. The machine can now be copied. And when the machine can be copied, the only thing you are really paying that enormous premium for is the story. The watch on your wrist still tells the time. It always did. The question China just forced out into the open is how much that story is actually worth, and whether, now that everyone can see behind the curtain, people will keep paying for it. If this changed how you think about the price tag on a luxury watch, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this is exactly the kind of story we tell here. Here's a question for you. If a Chinese watch has the same movement, the same sapphire, and the same finish as a Swiss one at 50 times the price, is the Swiss watch still worth it? Drop your answer in the comments.